Welcome to my teaching portfolio. In my teaching portfolio, I will be showcasing 6 sections. The first one is the introduction, school information, classroom management, extracurricular activities, 5E evidence and assessment of and for learning, technology as tools for learning. Alright, let me introduce you to my first section. Before I do that, I'm going to share this quote with you. The important thing is not so much that every child should be taught, as that every child should be given the wish to learn, by John Lubbock. I enjoy that quote. Alright, now let's meet the teacher. My name is Shamira Coye. I'm a very loving, funny, and energetic educator that is enthusiastic about being in the classroom. I love science and I enjoy exploring nature. I want to share my passion for learning with my students and continue to develop their curiosity about the world around them. In my spare time, I love to explore on the internet the different digital applications and do a few self-learning in order to extend them into my classroom. My love for constantly learning new things inspired me to become a teacher, because in this manner I would be able to share my knowledge with my students. My personal teaching philosophy. I believe that the classroom should be a place where students want to be. We as teachers need to work hard to make it that kind of space for children. I strongly believe that the classroom needs to be a place where students feel welcomed and safe to test out their fears without being afraid to fail or to try over again. While almost every child has the opportunity to an education, not every child has the chance to be given quality education. Students are the drivers of their education and future. My role is to guide them and create lifelong learners who will one day become leaders, role models, and successful individuals who not only succeed academically, but also within their own unique talent. I'm going to share my goals with you. The first one is to constantly improve in everything I do. Second one, to become a biology teacher in the secondary and tertiary level. Third, to maintain a good relationship with my students. And the fourth one, to enable a deep understanding of content on my students and have them make connections with the world around them. Okay, let us move on to the second section of my portfolio. I'm a teacher at Holy Redeemer School for the past 3 years. Holy Redeemer is a Roman Catholic school that was established since 1869. Holy Redeemer is located at the very center of Belize City at 144 North Front Street. We are proud to share that our school celebrated its 150th anniversary last year. At this very moment, Holy Redeemer have approximately 1,068 students enrolled, and each classroom consists of 28 to 35 students. Our staff consists of 40 teachers and 4 administrators. Our school is one of the biggest primary schools in Belize City. Our mission at Holy Redeemer is to provide quality primary education that develops each child holistically to become a productive, respectful, and honest member of society. I have been teaching in the middle division for the past 3 years. My standard 2 classroom consists of 28 students. I have 11 girls and I have 17 boys in my classroom. I would describe my students as being sweet, active, and intelligent individuals, some being shy and some being outspoken. I think that the few challenges that we encountered in my class, or we faced in my class, would be 1, staying motivated, because when we began with this online session, we were creating videos that were too long, 30 minutes and over long. They were too wordy, and actually they had no kind of interaction with the students, so therefore it was boring, and it was a really challenging situation to maintain the students focus and to have them being motivated to view the videos. The second one is time management. Since the parents were not at home and they stayed with their older siblings, they were told to do their assignments, their activities, and their children, they would be playing and they would not be doing their work. So at 5, when the parent would reach, no work is done. When it's time to be entering activities, assignments, and folders, the child was not ready. So that was a challenging situation there. Another one would be adapting to unfamiliar technology. We had families that had no clue of how to use technology, parents that have no background, even with education. So it was really hard for the child to become involved with the use of technology, and therefore they were not able to participate in certain stuff with the Google Classroom. And the other one was lack of internet. Several parents were suffering financial crisis due to the pandemic, and they were not able to afford internet. And since we were creating videos of 30 minutes, they were not able to afford data for 2 to 4 videos a day. So when I look back at all of these challenges, I realized that as teachers we had a lot of fault in this, because if we were prepared and we look at the pros and the cons, we would not be causing this distress on parents and students. But we as teachers, we were learning as well. But I'm really glad that we were able to reflect back on it, and also we were able to improve in our lesson and how we would set up our lesson in the Google slide, prepare our lesson to become more fun, more interactive, and to be shorter, having in mind that not every parent have the Wi-Fi available. Some of them need to use their data. So for this year, I decided that I wanted to have my class theme of galaxy and space. Sadly, my students were not able to see it. Alright, the third section in my portfolio is classroom management. Let's take a look at the first strategy for my virtual environment, which is the WhatsApp group. First of all, I needed to create a WhatsApp group because that was the only way that we would be able to communicate. So therefore, I decided to create a WhatsApp group with my new set of parents. The use of WhatsApp was not something new that Holy Redeemer was implementing. We were already using it from years ago. So that was nothing new to us or our parents. I decided to set my rules from the beginning. And when I opened my WhatsApp, I set up my rules, and I also had them know what time they could message me, when they could message, things that they could have said in the WhatsApp. If they had any concerns, any complaints, they would be able to do that in private message and not just do it on the group chat, because that would cause instigating. And I've seen it with other classes. I've never experienced it, but I've seen it. I also had my parents and students know that they need to respect each other's opinion and respect each other overall. I had my parents know that they can feel free to correct me if I ever make a mistake. I'm not a perfect person, and having their suggestions, is going to make me a better teacher. So I think that I created a very friendly atmosphere with my parents, and I was able to set my rules from the very beginning. Also, I believe that it is important to be prepared to model everything to parents and students. I think this is a part where several teachers fail, because when we were talking about the Google Classroom, we as teachers, we were last, and then parents and students would be even more last. So I made it my duty to learn the digital platform properly so that I can model it to my parents, because I knew that through me modeling the procedures, the steps to them, they would be able to teach the student, and therefore that's like a teamwork where I gain from them learning, and then my students gain from them, which was something very effective that I did. I didn't have my parents just figuring it out on their own. And then communicating regularly with parents and students via WhatsApp. It's very important to communicate. I mean, we don't see each other face to face, so therefore it's important to keep that bond. I constantly check on my parents, and I would if I feel like they're too quiet, I would say, hey Ashley, is everything okay? Hi Jonathan, is everything okay? And even my parents that would not be too active, I would message them and I would ask them, hi, how are you doing? How is Javon doing? And so forth. And another strategy that we used was that we decided that we were going to use Google Class Learning package and continue using the WhatsApp. So everything that was shared in the Google class would be shared in the WhatsApp for the students that were working with learning package. When I look back at all of these things, it was not easy to implement. It took us a few weeks, a few months for us to be able to start working properly, having my parents become more active, having my lessons flow properly. It took a lot for us to learn. It was trial and error time, but I think that the strategies that I used helped me to the point where I am now, that I feel that my lessons flow properly. I feel that my parents are comfortable, that they are able to interact. Even my students, they're able to interact, and we have that communication and bond with each other. We're going to the other one, which is routines and procedures. For the learning package, we decided that we would be doing learning package for the students that cannot use the Google class. They have 2 packages which are given per term. Students would have all the activities that would be done throughout the term. They would write the activity on folder sheet and enter it on folder A. So after 2 weeks, they would have to bring their folder, and they would have to sign that they brought their folder. And then after 2 weeks, then they would have to bring folder B, and they would pick up folder A that was already corrected and had the grade and corrections. So this was a procedure that would be done over and over until the package would be done. And everything that was shared on Google Class was shared on WhatsApp for them to receive as well. So every time they had to pick up their package, the parent would go and pick up the package. They would sign a record sheet for us to keep record of when they went for the package. If they even went for the package, they were late, and late submissions and all of those records. So this is the way that we use the routine and procedures for packages. And for Google Class, well, we uploaded work daily. We shared a timetable so that they know exactly what students would be receiving every day, what would we be posting every day. So like a normal day with our lesson would be like, first day we would post a teaching lesson, and the other days would be like activities, keeping in mind that the lessons can't be too long because of the data that the parents are using. So the second week we would work only with reinforcements. So whatever we taught the first week, we would review the second week to move at a slower pace for our students to grasp the concept better. I believe that it has been working good. It would have been good that all my students could have been working with the Google Class. But well, we have to work with what they can, and provide them provide them work to the way that they can. Now with the reward system, I decided to use positive reinforcement. In this section, I really had trouble preparing myself with this reward system even before internship, because I questioned myself, how would I do a reward system online? I don't have my students in front of me. How would they be able to display negative behavior? So I had a challenging time preparing for this, but I did do a few research. A positive reinforcement that I would be voice message, and I would encourage my students like, hey, you're doing an awesome job, keep on doing your assignments on time, your video was awesome, send them happy faces, celebration emojis, to encourage their positive behavior. And then I would also share fun videos. I would share fun videos with my students. I would even share some fun videos with my parents, because even parents need praising. Parents are very supportive. They are very active within my lessons as well. So therefore, it's fair enough to share fun videos with them. I also had them receive small tokens. I would encourage them to participate in my lesson. And if they participate in that specific activity, they would earn a few points. And by the end of the 2 weeks, when they had to go and pick up their folder, they would receive a small token like a chips, an ideal, or something to encourage them. And another thing that they would be able to do was face chat with teacher for 10 minutes and talk about anything that they want. One of my favorite strategies for the reward system was the class dojo. This was a new one that I was exploring with. It's almost like the Google Classroom, only we focus on this only for the points, and my students are able to log in using their Gmail. If they enter their work on time, they get a point. If they participate, they get a point. They can see how many points they're earning. It's like an app where their points are recorded, and they're very excited with this. They can go in and they can see how many points they earn by subject, by work, by activity, by week. For negative behavior, I also use the class dojo, because then here I can set up and edit the skills. For example, if their work is not punctual, their work is untidy, incomplete work, then I set up the different points based on the importance of the activity. If they have 5 points that they earned and they have a missing work, they lose 2 points. So they know that they have to gather their points in order to receive their tokens or have that video chat with their teacher. Another day that I would deal with the negative behavior would be call parent via WhatsApp. Negative behavior would be like untidy work, incomplete work, and late work and stuff like that. And obviously they would be losing their token of snacks. For the lesson structure, I would message my parents when I would be uploading my videos, because sometimes they would be very punctual at 8 and my net would be down. So it's very important to have that communication and let them know that I'm posting my work, so they be on the alert. Then after I have posted, I would notify that the videos have been posted, and I would also share via WhatsApp. All of my lessons would be pre-recorded lessons using Google Slide, Loom. It's not really encouraged for us to be just sharing YouTube. We would do it now and then, but it's not really encouraged by our administrators. And then we would upload work daily in our Google Classroom in the different subfolders, and they have their timetables. They know specifically which subjects they need to be looking on for the day. Every activity that is sent on Google Classroom is also sent on WhatsApp. Students that are working with their learning package, well, they enter their work in their folder. Now, students with special needs, the accommodations that I made was provide extra videos for them, use one-to-one session to further assist them, especially if they would be solving a problem. I would use this one-to-one session to see exactly where they're committing the error. Probably they're not carrying properly, they're not adding properly, and therefore I would be to identify their mistake. I would also model examples and send it via WhatsApp video. And of course, some fun. I would create some games and have them practice the concept with the game. Now, for my extracurricular activities, in the first one, for the community service, I decided that I wanted to participate in this community service where one of my cousins that she lives in the US, she's in this group Karma, and they decided that they wanted to, bless family with needs for Christmas, and therefore I wanted to participate in this community service along with a few other of my family members. And we went to different villages in the Orange Rock district, and we gave gifts to the children, and it was a blessing for me to experience that to have that experience then, because I realized that I had my priorities all wrong. I was growing my son wrong as well. I would probably have my son wearing the best brands, having the best things, I would take it from me to give him. When I saw the faces of those children just being happy of having a toy, doesn't matter what size, what price, they probably didn't even expect a toy. when I saw the faces of the parents of a relief that, you helped me, how would have I gotten the money to buy a gift? Or how would I have faced my child and told them that probably Santa forgot their gift, And just having that experience really touched me a lot, made me feel that I'm a blessed person, that I have not gone through those sort of struggles, and therefore made me realize that, I need to give back more to my community. On the workshops, I did several workshops here. I did the digital platform, online learning, and I did the literacy training. I really did not find the digital platform very informative since it was things that I already knew. For the online learning, I really liked it because we want to implement the Zoom and the Google Meet for this term, that we want to do online classes, face to face, live online, right? Live online. So I was really excited with that. I felt that I learned a lot with the Zoom. I'm really excited and looking forward to using it. For the literacy training, to be honest, I really didn't find it much so informative, because I thought that for this literacy training I would be learning techniques and strategies, as of how to deal with students that probably have problems with their songs, with their blendings. But I felt like they use the session as a more sharing experiences of teachers, and I think we should use our time wisely and just tackle the problem immediately. What are the strategies that we can use? What are things that we are not doing? What are techniques that we can implement? So, but I really like the fact that they are providing these workshops. I just think that it has to be something more, that instead of just sharing experiences, to don't beat around the bush, go and hit the nail right on the head. We need that. And the other one, school activities, I participated in yoga, emotional intelligence, and mindfulness workshop, which was really awesome. I really liked it. It helped me to regulate my breathing and manage my stress as well. And for technology, I am a little versed with technology, and I help out people, like members in my staff, cousins, family members, create collages, flyers, brochures. And these are some volunteer activities that I have done. I realized that I need to be more active within my community and within my school. When I was preparing this section, I realized that I was not really active in my community. Neither was I really active in my school. So I think that since I have been blessed a lot, I need to give back to my community and even my school. Now with the other section of my lesson, which is the 5E evidence assessment for and of learning. In social studies, I decided to use this introduction natural resources song. In this lesson, I use a natural resource song which I made to introduce topic natural resources. And I really like this lesson, and it made me realize that I have grown a lot as a teacher, because when I look back at the video, my first social studies video, I can see the difference of how I have grown as a teacher, of how I have improved in my planning and to structure my planning. In my previous lesson for social studies, I did not do any exploration. I did not do any critical, did not have my students do any critical thinking. I didn't prepare any questioning for them. And in this lesson, I had all of these things. I had my students exploring, I had my students questioning. And when I look back at all of this, I realized that, I was focusing more on how my lesson looked than what I would be teaching my students, like in conceptual knowledge. I was focusing more on the green screen and on the presentation. And I think that as a teacher, I have realized the importance of planning a lesson properly. Each and every section in a lesson is very important, very, very important. So for my explanation, social studies, this is my first video of social studies. This is the green screen. I honestly thought that this was an awesome video. thought that was going to be getting an A, and when I did not get an A, I was surprised. But now I totally understand why. Because yes, the idea of using this development to have my students like go through the Belize's natural resources while having their tour guide and explaining each resource was cool. It was a fun idea. But I didn't have my students interact. I didn't stimulate any higher level thinking of my students. All I did here was provide them with information, which is like a normal video that you can go and look at YouTube, So I don't want to be creating lessons where I just provide them with information, do surface teaching. I want to have my students think. I want to have my students analyze, to explore, to make connections. I could have asked my students here what financial contributions do the natural resources have, or what impacts does it have with our country? How does these natural resources contribute with financial contributions in our country, So I realized that I was lacking on all of those things, but well, I didn't know better. I didn't know what was exploration. Honestly, my lesson plan was dull, and I know that I needed a lot to learn. And I'm really glad to see how I've grown with my planning, and I'm able to identify my errors. Okay, for the Elaborate, I decided to use this activity. The student had to analyze how they misuse natural resources. They had to explain how they would become affected if they ran out of this resource. I like this activity because, first of all, in my first social studies video, I did not do any Elaborate. I did not even know that there was a section in my lesson that would be Elaborate. So I really enjoyed this because I had my students analyze on their own how they would be misusing the natural resources. Instead of me being a person that gives information, I have them give me back information. So I tailor my lesson in a way that I'm just going to be guiding them and have them explore and give me back the information. And by that way, I am able to see what level of thinking my student is doing. And I see that learning is taking process. First, on my previous lesson, or even years ago, I would be a track and talk teacher, a boring teacher that would only be using charts. And I would elaborate on probably matching or circle the natural resource. So when I look at activities as this, in my elaboration, I realized that, wow, I've gone far. Even though I thought that I wasn't able to reach at this point because I was really lacking confidence, I am feeling proud of myself. All right, for the evaluation for learning in social studies, renewable and non-renewable lesson here, I use this assessment where students were to play the game online and classify resources into renewable and non-renewable resources. I like to use games because not everything is just videoing and writing, Games is really fun as well to have students like interact, especially if they can compete with their classmates. They had to classify the resources into renewable and non-renewable resources, which I think is really fun. I use oral questioning after the assessment, which allowed me also to see the level of thinking of my students. So in other occasions, I would just provide the game. I would do no oral questioning. I would get no feedback. So what would be the point of me giving this activity, So these are things that I realized that I was not doing right. I realized that I was not reaching to that level with my students because, one, I was not putting from my part. I didn't know exactly what to do. I needed guidance, and then I was like in this close-up box that I was afraid to step out of the comfort zone. But now I really feel confident doing activities like that, and I know that it's very important to have my questioning after each assessment. And then the evaluation of learning. In this assessment, students were to identify 2 renewable resources, non-renewable in their home. They would need to explain why the resource is important to them. I decided to show this assessment. I like to go back to my first video, because in my first video of social studies, I didn't have an assessment like this. I didn't even do a closure. I closed abruptly. And in this lesson, I feel that my assessments were aligned to my lesson. You know, I had my students analyze, identify, and I feel that I had my students do all the exploring. They were the ones that were doing the exploring and giving me back the information that I wanted to get from them. And I feel really surprised of myself sometimes, because all this time I felt that I was a boring teacher, that probably I was not a good teacher, and I would question myself if teaching was something that I really wanted to do, because the way that I used to plan my lesson, I would not get my students to learn the way that I wanted. I would not get the feedback that I wanted. Therefore, I would feel frustrated. You know, if I felt frustrated, I can imagine how my students felt. But I think it's the way that I planned my lesson, and I didn't have that motivation, and I don't know, I was not being creative. I was being a lazy teacher. I think I was being a lazy teacher. And now I have realized that, you know, I can do a lot. I just had to challenge myself to do it. And it's kind of embarrassing to go back and reflect on the 2 years and see that, you know, I wasted so much time, and I affected my students in a way that I did not allow them to explore through these different topics and subjects, you know. But well, I think I have learned a lot, and every mistake is a lesson learned. Alright, for the science, I decided to use this engagement pitch. This was my first lesson that I entered in my internship, and it's very funny because since science is my best subject, I would question myself, what was going in my head when I thought that this introduction was right. So for this lesson, I had students identify 3 songs I presented in the video. I am role-playing a scientist there. I know that for science, you need to explore, investigate, to experiment. And what kind of exploration, investigation, or experimentation I had my students do there? Nothing. I gave them even the sound. So that was really something that I had to laugh about, because I could have probably have my students identify the songs in their environment so that they can relate with the songs that they hear on a daily basis in their environment. And I could probably have asked them how are songs produced, because okay, since they're able to identify the songs now, I would stimulate their level of thinking by asking, how do you think that songs are produced? Yes, they know that songs are produced from our mouth, but how? And this is where I would elaborate in my lesson about high pitch and low pitch, you know. But well, back then, this science teacher here didn't know that. I'm really glad that I was able to identify that, and being able to explain it and realize my errors in such way makes me feel really proud of myself to see that I have grown in this way, that I am able to realize my own errors in my planning. And I know that for further or in the future, I'm not going to be doing these same kind of errors. For the explanation in science respiratory lesson, I decided that I was going to make this lesson really fun. This was one of my best lessons. I decided that I wanted to introduce the lesson using a song. I really like to use song because it's fun, and instead of using charts, I wanted to show the respiratory process through the video to have students visualize it. and I did a little revision with my model so that students can relate to it in a more realistic manner. I really like this because when I look back at my first video as a science teacher, I realized that I used to boast of me being good at science, but actually I didn't know anything about being a good science teacher. I was not having my students do anything that a science teacher would or should have been having his or her students do. But now I feel that yes, I'm at a level that I am doing what I should be doing. Yes, I know that I have room for improvement, but I feel confident. I feel more confident, and I feel that I am able to portray exactly what I want or I wrote in my plan. First, I had problems trying to understand my plan. I had problems structuring my plan, but now I feel like my ideas are flowing more better, probably because I'm understanding each part of my plan, and I just love it. I love it. I love the way that I have grown. I love the way that I have learned to implement each and every single part of my lesson plan. Alright, for the elaboration in my science respiratory system, I had my students use their lung model to analyze how air flows in and out of the lung model. And I really like this activity because I had them analyze how the air flows in and out. Here they were exploring by themselves how air flows in and out, and then they were able to give me a feedback of it. On my first lesson, I only had them complete an observation sheet, and I had them create a model, a simple instrument. And yes, I had them create a model of a simple instrument, but I did not have them do any analyzing, any exploring. They just presented me that they created the instrument. But what did I have them explore? What did I have them analyze? What did they learn from that instrument? It really wasn't as effective as I did in this one. So therefore I can see growth, and I can see that I am thinking at a more higher level and stimulating those critical thinking in my students. For the evaluation science respiratory system learning I used the peer deck, and I provided them a video, and they had to give me feedback. I observed, describe what you saw or what happened so that I can see if they understood what they saw in the video. I gave them a trick question here to see if they were following, and here is something that I like to do so that I can know if my students are understanding. I need to stop. And I really like doing things like this because simple things like this can make a big difference with how I continue my lesson, I move forward, or I go back and review. Before, I wouldn't be doing these things. I wouldn't be doing any checkup with my students. I wouldn't be doing assessments in this way. It would be only worksheet. I was a worksheet teacher. So I really like that I am able to be using these digital platforms to do these assessments. I feel that I have learned a lot within technology, and that has become one of my strengths. I feel that I've been exploring technology more during my internship, and I'm really feeling comfortable in this area. Learning of science respiratory system lesson, I usually have my students do some kind of presentation, but in this one I had them demonstrate their learning in a creative way. They were given the opportunity to choose how they would want to demonstrate that learning, and therefore I gave them that space for them to be creative. I think that as teachers we limit our students to what they can do, and even our parents, because without our parents that's not nothing would be possible. Like, for example, this is a very good example. They did a song. Probably the words in the song were not all that, but their creativity was fine. But what I liked the most was this piece, and probably you might not find it as important as I do, but I do find it important because I at no point I thought that I could have done a video presentation and used TikTok. So this is something that I learned from my parent. So having them be creative They can show their learning in different ways, and I can get to learn from them as well as in this one. So here I have my student, him presenting model presentations, and well, I really like this lesson and the way that it was structured. Makes me think and reflect that we need to stop keeping back our students from doing certain things. We need to open that space for them to explore, for them to be more creative with how they want to demonstrate their learning. We don't have to be telling them how they will demonstrate their learning. They are the ones who learn. Let us have them show us how they learn in their own way. Alright, for math, the engagement, exploration, multiplication lesson here. When I look back at this lesson here, to be honest, I had a very difficult time preparing this lesson because I was still in that box, that closed mind period where I thought that I wasn't a charismatic teacher. Me having to impersonate a clown was very hard. I felt very stiff. I felt that my laughters were you could have noticed that they were not really genuine, and well, I decided to use the place value chart to have students place one 5-digit number under their correct place. And even this introduction, I think that yes, it was pretty, but I think that I didn't challenge my students, no way, because okay, yes, I know that they can place their digits in the correct value, but I could have asked them, what if 2 digits were in the same value, something like that, to have them critically think other than just have them write the number. So I think I could have done better in this, but at that moment I didn't have the knowledge that I do now. So I'm glad that I'm able to recognize these stuff and make corrections, and now I can go back and look at this and say, hey Shamira, you are a very charismatic teacher, you're a very funny teacher. That teacher that you see in this picture is no longer you, and I'm really proud to say that. So for the explanation multiplication lesson here, I decided to do my development and use manipulative to show concept of multiplication and have students relate it with real life experiences. I really enjoyed this lesson because I was able to connect multiplication with real life experiences. I also had demonstration to show my students how to multiply, and I used scenarios to connect multiplication and have my students look at multiplication in a more realistic way. So I really like this. I feel like I have grown a lot because I felt like I wasn't really good at math. I felt that my strengths were science and social studies, but I feel very comfortable in this lesson. I know that I have grown a lot, other than me being that stiff teacher and thinking that I was not charismatic. But now I can say that all of that has changed, and I'm looking forward to preparing more videos, more fun, and me being able to impersonate different characters because I enjoy doing it now. For the elaborate multiplication lesson, in this activity I gave students a specific multiplication problem and had them record themselves and demonstrate how they solved the problem. I decided to share this because it is very important for us to have students demonstrate what they're learning, especially in online class, because we don't really know what is their error. By them demonstrating it via video, we can identify their error. And I like this because I would be a teacher that I would only use worksheet and just give them work, and I would give them probably 10 multiplication problems to do, and I would not get no oral feedback from them. I would not get no demonstration. So here I'm just showing that I learned that with one video, one demonstration, this is more valuable than having 10 problems in the worksheet, because with this I can see if they're learning. But with the 10 problems there, I don't know what they're learning. I don't even know if they did it on their own. So evaluation multiplication lesson learning for we decided to reinforce the timetable. So every week students had to practice one set of their timetable, and when they were ready they would let me know. I would video call them, and then they would I would assess them orally. If they were able to say their 2 times table properly, then they would complete this part of their table, and so on. They would do this until they have reached the 12th times table. This is a good way to have students and encourage them to practice their timetable and to assess them, to keep checking up, if they are learning it. I really like this because, first of all, I didn't find the importance of them learning the times table. I would only drill them every morning, and I think that was kind of boring. But this activity that I decided to do here was very, very creative, and I think it is very effective. It's very effective looking back on me just drilling students or just giving them worksheets to test their knowledge on their times table, which was boring. So I really like the way that I am finding ways to evaluate my students in a more fun way and effective way. Multiplication learning off. For this assessment, I had students create a multiplication game, record themselves presenting game. Usually for a summative assessment, I would give a worksheet with, I don't know, like 10 problems, 5 word problems, and I would get no oral questioning, no feedback. I would just receive the worksheet. But I decided that no, I don't want to continue being that teacher. I want to be a more effective teacher. And I decided to have them create a game and have them show me their knowledge of multiplication and multiplying through their game. And I really like this because my way of thinking, my way of wanting to assess my students is totally different than the teacher that I was before I started this internship course. I feel that I have matured a lot as a teacher. I have grown a lot as a professional, and I am really, really excited to what the future brings to me. I am not planning to stop here. I felt that I have learned a lot in 11 weeks, and I know that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years I am going to learn even more. I'm really excited for it. For the language arts, engagement, phonics and vocabulary, I decided to use the vowel video, and I had them give a feedback of the vowel song. I think that this language lesson was one of my most challenging lessons that I had to do and enter, because I've always thought that language is my weakness, and I realized that for this phonics I didn't really challenge my students in my introduction. I didn't have them explore either, because I had no exploration right here. The students just had to give me a feedback of their vowel songs, which was lame. I didn't challenge them in no way. So I think that as a language arts teacher, I have much to improve in this part. I'm glad that I'm able to identify my errors. I just need to research and try to figure out how I can become a better teacher in my language arts. For the explanation or controlled vowel, I decided to use this role play of the pirate for students to be able to relate the songs in a better way. I really like this because usually I would be preparing charts to demonstrate how these songs are brought about, but with this role playing I really enjoyed it myself. There was a piece that I wanted to laugh because it was really funny, and I like the way that I have been thinking and preparing my lessons, because role playing has been something that I never thought that I would be doing. I didn't see myself being as a teacher that I would be singing, role playing and impersonating characters, and now this has become one of my strengths, and I really like it. I like it a lot. Now, elaborate grammar, plural possessive noun. Instead of having them do a worksheet or something like that, I decided that I wanted to do a game. I have who has, and then since I don't have all of my students participating on the online session, because I have some being on the working on the learning package, I was able to manage my time and play on a one-to-one session with my students. I gave them 3 cards. I work with them 3 cards I have, and then they would give me the feedback. I really like this because I was able to have that bond with my students. At first, the less I interacted with my students, the better for me. The less I interacted with my students out of the classroom, it was better. And now I'm finding ways of how I want to be interacting with my students in every single thing. So I think that in that way, I have grown a lot, and I have become a more loving teacher. I feel that I'm being even loved more by my students. Even though they have not seen me, I can see they appreciate me a lot. So I'm really glad I have been able to grow in that area and aspect of my personality and as a teacher. Evaluate language arts phonics learning 4. I decided to use this phonics game. This assessment, I had students play game Whack-A-Mole, where they were able to identify the words that had the R controlled vowels, sounds of ER, IR, and UR. I like to integrate games. Not everything is just, presenting and worksheet or writing and stuff. I really like this. I like learning stuff via games. I did include questioning after this assessment, but I think that probably I could have made or created a more challenging game, But as I go growing more, I would be able to become even more better with my games as well, and with the assessments that I choose. But I like this idea because in other occasions I would not be using stuff like this. Probably I would just give them a few words, and they would have to circle the R controlled vowels, or I would have them list words with R controlled vowels, which it was something boring. They were not exploring, and here, while they're playing, they're learning as well. And I had them giving me feedback after the assessment, which is something that I have learned, that after every assessment it is very important to get an oral feedback from the student, because then it doesn't make sense that I gave the assessment. How will I know what they learned? How will I know where they need more assistance? So yeah, I am noticing that I have improved a lot in several aspects of my planning, several aspects of me as a teacher. Learning off in writing, I decided that I wanted my student to write the story The Eggs, and they had to change the ending of the story, and they had to read and present the story to me. So I really enjoyed working with Kamini. Kamini is a very intelligent student, and I like the way that we were able to interact with each other with the reading comprehension. Before, when I used to teach reading comprehension, I would only read the story. I would not have my students echo read. I would not assess my students in their reading. I would do all the reading. Probably now and then I would do choral reading, and I would just give them the questions and have them answer it. I would not interact with them, and I realized that in this lesson, when I interacted a lot with my students, especially with Kamini, the lesson was even more fun. And when they were able to come up with those questions that really had me laughing and thinking, I realized that I have a lot to learn in language, a lot, but I know that I have grown and I have improved from the teacher that I was before I entered here. My first lesson in language is not the same as in this lesson, and I know that my other lesson after this will not be the same as in this one, and I know that as time goes by, I'll be learning and learning even more. Alright, so for my technology, I use Google Classroom, I use WhatsApp, I also use the Peer Deck. I use Peer Deck to have questioning, to present videos. WordWall is the application that I use to create all my games. I also decided to use, this is an example of the WordWall game. I also use Kahoot, but I really didn't find Kahoot really interesting because Kahoot is more like a multiple choice game. And then I also use the application Class Dojo. All right, I am very grateful for this experience. I really like the fact that I was able to go through this course. At the beginning, I found it really challenging. I really didn't want to step out of my comfort zone, but now I feel that I have reached to a point where I want to keep on learning. I feel that I have reached to a point that this is where I wanted to be. This is the teacher I wanted to be, but I wasn't being this teacher. Therefore, I was having a hard time being in my classroom. I was not implementing proper strategies in classroom management. I was not preparing my lessons properly. I was not having my students become well engaged. So all of these things I realized that I was lacking of, and now I realize that I have learned all of those things and I am eager to implement it with my students. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to complete this course, especially that I went through several personal challenges in my life, but I pushed myself and I had the encouragement of several persons, of my supervisor, of family, of friends, of a lot of persons, and all of that helped me, and I feel very accomplished. At the beginning, I used to feel like the internship online was just a waste of time, but no, internship online has pushed me to the teacher that I am now, pushed me to the teacher that I want to become. A very effective teacher, a fun teacher, a charismatic teacher, a teacher that's willing to impersonate, to do anything to have her lesson fun, a teacher that is no longer the chalk and tag teacher. And I'm really grateful for this course. Very, very grateful.